The WNBA fined Sophie Cunningham $400 for a shove. In return, the internet made her a legend. Her jersey sold out instantly. Her social media following exploded into the millions. And that one foul put her on track to make more from brand deals than her entire WNBA salary. This wasn't just a moment of frustration. It was a calculated message that flipped the power dynamic of the entire league. And it started with a single, unapologetic shove. The moment that changed everything happened in a flash. Indiana Fever versus the Connecticut Sun. The game was chippy, but that was becoming the norm for any team facing Caitlin Clark. The ball goes up, and as Clark fights for position, she gets tangled up with JC Sheldon. There's a nudge, a bit of a forearm. But then came the response. Sophie Cunningham saw it, and without hesitation, she stepped in and delivered a firm, unapologetic shove that sent Sheldon stumbling back. There was no screaming, no wild gestures. It was a cold, calculated message sent directly to the Sun and, by extension, the entire WNBA. The days of pushing Caitlin Clark around without consequence were officially over. The whistle blew. A technical foul was called, but the real impact was just beginning to ripple outwards. But this fire wasn't ignited in a vacuum. To understand why that shove resonated so deeply, you have to understand the weeks leading up to it. Caitlin Clark, the generational talent bringing millions of new eyes to the WNBA, was being treated like a human piñata. Night after night, she was getting roughed up, bumped, and hit with cheap shots off the ball. The most infamous example was the blindside hip check from Chennedy Carter of the Chicago Sky, a move so flagrant it dominated sports talk for days. And through it all, the response from her teammates was noticeably absent. They looked on, perhaps in shock, as their star player was targeted. The narrative was solidifying. The Indiana Fever were soft. They would let their franchise player get bullied while the refs looked the other way. That perception was a poison, and Sophie Cunningham had just delivered the antidote. And if you thought this was some new aggressive persona Cunningham adopted for the cameras, you don't know Sophie. This is who she has always been. This is the player who earned a black belt in Taekwondo by the age of 6. She has always played with a fire and a toughness that borders on intimidating. During her time with the Phoenix Mercury, she was known as the team's heart and soul, the player who would dive for every loose ball and never back down from a confrontation. She wasn't playing a role for the Fever. The Fever finally gave her the perfect stage to be herself. Her entire career has been defined by loyalty and a willingness to do the dirty work that doesn't always show up on the stat sheet. This wasn't a player looking for a viral moment. This was a warrior seeing a threat to her team and acting on pure instinct. The WNBA, bound by its rulebook, had to act. They handed down their official punishment, a $400 fine. For a league trying to maintain control, it was a standard procedure. But what they failed to realize is that they weren't operating in a bubble anymore. While the league office was writing up the fine, the court of public opinion was delivering its verdict. Fans, fed up with seeing Clark targeted, hailed Cunningham as a hero. GoFundMe campaigns were launched by strangers to pay her fine for her. Her jersey, which was once just another item in the team store, sold out instantly, with pre-orders stacking up for weeks. The league tried to issue a penalty, but all they did was light the fuse on her popularity. The fine became a badge of honor, and the shove transformed into a symbol of loyalty that fans were desperately craving. This is where the story shifts from the basketball court to the bank account. Sophie Cunningham is playing on a one-year contract worth about $100,000. It's a respectable salary, but in the world of professional sports, it's modest. Yet, in the week following the shove, her financial reality was completely rewritten. Her Instagram followers nearly tripled, soaring past 800,000. On TikTok, she blasted through the 1 million follower mark. According to sports marketing experts, an athlete with that kind of following can command anywhere from $20,000 to $70,000 for a single sponsored post. Suddenly, with just 2 or 3 brand deals, she could earn more than her entire WNBA salary. The $400 fine wasn't a cost, it was the single greatest investment of her career. And that leads to the league's quiet dilemma. Publicly, the WNBA has to condemn unsportsmanlike conduct, but privately, they must know this is exactly the kind of drama that builds legends and grows leagues. For years, the WNBA has struggled to capture the mainstream's attention. Now, with the Caitlin Clark effect, they have it, but stars alone aren't enough. You need narratives, you need rivalries, you need heroes and villains. Think of the bad boy Pistons of the NBA, whose physical play made them hated but absolutely essential viewing. They created created an identity that defined an era. Sophie Cunningham's shove gave the WNBA a dose of that same magic. It created a clear, compelling storyline. The loyal protector standing up for the targeted superstar. The league can't endorse it, but you better believe they're benefiting from the chaos. Beyond the money and the media, the most profound impact of that shove was felt inside the Indiana Fever's locker room. Before that moment, they were a collection of talented players led by a rookie phenom. After that moment, they became a team with a soul. Cunningham's action was a declaration to every player on that roster. I have your back. It instantly erased the soft label that had been stuck to them. It injected a new level of confidence and swagger into the team. Players suddenly walked taller, played harder. It was no longer just the Caitlin Clark show, it was the Indiana Fever, a unit that would fight for each other. That kind of psychological shift is more valuable than any single victory. The league saw a foul, but the Fever found their identity. But perhaps the most brilliant move Cunningham made was what she did next. Absolutely nothing. There was no tearful press conference, no carefully worded notes app apology. Instead, she leaned in. In interviews, she was cool and direct, stating she would always protect her teammates. On social media, she joked about it, posting a video with the caption, "Can't keep my hands to myself." By owning the moment, she took control of the story. While critics were debating the ethics of her shove, she was building a brand of unapologetic loyalty. Brands don't chase controversy, they chase clarity, and Sophie gave them perfect clarity. She showed the world exactly who she is, and for once, the internet didn't try to cancel her, it celebrated her. The true genius of Cunningham's shove, however, wasn't physical. It was psychological. That single act of defiance sent a tremor through every other team in the WNBA. It planted a seed of doubt in the mind of every player assigned to guard Caitlin Clark from now on. The question is no longer, can I get away with roughing her up? It's now, if I rough her up, what will Sophie Cunningham do to me? The cost of a cheap shot just went up exponentially. She established a deterrent. It's the same principle that makes a bodyguard effective. His mere presence prevents most altercations. Cunningham's presence on the court now serves as a constant, unspoken warning. The game is no longer just about stopping Clark, it's about surviving her protector. This isn't just an Indiana Fever story, it's a blueprint for the entire sport. Every great finesse player in history has had an enforcer. Michael Jordan had Charles Oakley. Steph Curry has Draymond Green. These players are the artists, the scorers, the ones who bring the crowd to their feet. But they need a guardian, someone to handle the dirty work and ensure they have the space to create their magic. Caitlin Clark is an artist with the ball, not a brawler. By stepping into that role, Sophie Cunningham didn't just become Clark's protector, she re-established the vital importance of the Queen's Guard. She reminded every front office in the league that if you're going to build your franchise around a superstar, you better be prepared to protect your investment. So when the dust settled, the paradox was complete. A $400 fine meant to punish instead created a millionaire icon. Sophie Cunningham didn't just break a rule, she exposed a fatal flaw in the league's strategy and provided the solution herself. She gave her team an identity, weaponized her own narrative, and established a new psychological battleground for every opponent. She proved that in a league desperate for stars, the most important player isn't always the one scoring the points. Sometimes it's the one who makes sure the star can play another day. The era of the enforcer is back, and it might just be the very thing that saves the game.